You don't carry a gun, you carry a CPA license. And in the last 3 years, you've put more cartel members in prison than the entire DEA task force in your region. Not because you're braver, because you're smarter. And because you understand something most people don't. Every empire falls the same way, through its bank account. Your name is Daniel Reeves. You're 34 years old. You graduated top of your class from Stanford with a degree in forensic accounting, which is a fancy way of saying you're trained to find money that doesn't want to be found. You started working at one of the big 4 accounting firms, Ernst & Young. Clean offices, clean clients, clean money. For 4 years, you helped Fortune 500 companies optimize their tax strategies, legal loopholes, offshore holdings, complex corporate structures. You were exceptional at it. Your salary was $180,000 a year. You had a corner office view. You were building toward partner. Then, one Tuesday afternoon, everything changed. A federal agent walks into your office, Special Agent Victoria Moss, Financial Crimes Enforcement Network, FinCEN. She doesn't have a warrant. She has a question. She slides a folder across your desk. Inside are financial statements from a construction company in Texas. On paper, it's legitimate. $40 million in annual revenue, 2,000 employees, government contracts. But Agent Moss tells you something the spreadsheets don't show. This construction company is a front for the Zaragoza cartel. And the federal government has been trying to prove it for 6 years. They've sent in undercover agents. They've run wiretaps. They've seized physical evidence. But the cartel's legal team is too good. Every case gets dismissed. Every witness disappears. Every trail goes cold. Agent Moss looks you in the eye and asks a simple question. Can you prove it with the numbers? You spend 20 minutes reviewing the documents, and then you see it. A single line item, buried on page 47, equipment depreciation. The numbers are correct. The category is legitimate, but the timing is wrong by exactly 3 weeks. That 3-week discrepancy creates a mathematical impossibility. That means someone backdated purchases that never happened, which means the revenue is fabricated, which means the entire company is a shell. You look up at Agent Moss. I can prove it. Give me 90 days. She slides a contract across your desk. Federal consultant, $800 per day, plus protection, plus immunity. You sign it, not because of the money, because for the first time in 4 years of optimizing tax strategies for billionaires, you're going to use your skills for something that actually matters. You just don't realize yet what that decision is going to cost you. You don't work from the federal building. Too visible. You work from a secure facility in Northern Virginia. Concrete walls, no windows, armed guards at every entrance. You're given access to everything. 7 years of bank statements, wire transfer records from 14 countries, shell company registrations, property deeds, payroll data, tax returns. It's 4 terabytes of financial data. Most people would see noise. You see a map. You start with the obvious. The construction company reports $40 million in revenue. But when you cross-reference their supplier purchase orders with their project timelines, the math doesn't work. They're buying 3 times more concrete than they're using on actual jobs. Where is the extra concrete going? It's not. The concrete doesn't exist. The suppliers are fake. The purchase orders are fabricated paperwork designed to justify incoming cash. You trace the supplier companies, 12 of them, all registered in Delaware, all owned by the same trust, all operating from the same address, a 600 square foot office suite that houses 78 different businesses. You found the washing machine. You spend 3 weeks building a financial model that proves the construction company has been laundering roughly $180 million over 5 years. You present it to Agent Moss. She brings in the assistant U.S. attorney. They review your work for 6 hours. At the end, the AUSA says 2 words: we indict. 3 weeks later, federal marshals raid 47 locations simultaneously. They arrest 23 people. They seize $31 million in assets. They freeze 89 bank accounts. The Zaragoza cartel's entire financial infrastructure in Texas collapses in 48 hours. Not because of guns, because of spreadsheets. That night, Agent Moss calls you at home. There are 11 other cartels operating the same way. We need you for all of them. You accept immediately, because you've just discovered something more addictive than money: power over powerful people. Over the next 18 months, you dismantle 4 more operations. Case 2, a restaurant chain laundering money through fake delivery orders. You prove it with GPS data and credit card timestamps. Case 3, a car dealership selling vehicles that don't exist to buyers who aren't real. You catch it through VIN number gaps in their registration database. Case 4, a real estate company buying properties with cocaine profits. You trace it through mortgage payment patterns that don't match any legitimate income source. Case 5, a casino skimming cash and mixing it with gambling revenue. You expose it by calculating the statistical probability of their reported win/loss ratios. Your conviction rate is 100%. You're getting better at this, faster, more efficient. You start seeing patterns before you even open the files. You develop a reputation. In federal law enforcement circles, they call you the eraser. Because when you're done with a case, the organization doesn't just get arrested, it gets financially deleted. Every bank account frozen, every asset seized, every shell company dissolved. It's not about justice anymore. It's about total economic annihilation. And you're exceptional at it. Your salary is now $400,000 a year as a federal consultant. Then Case 6 arrives, and everything changes. Agent Moss walks into your office with a file thicker than any you've seen. This one's different, she says. The target is the Navarro organization, not a cartel, a network. They operate in 43 countries. They move $2 billion annually. They have financial infrastructure more sophisticated than most Fortune 500 companies. But here's what makes them different. They don't launder money through fake businesses. They launder it through real ones, legitimate corporations, profitable companies. Clean operations that happen to have criminal cash flowing underneath. Your job is to prove which dollars are clean and which are dirty. In a system designed to make that impossible, you spend 3 months building a model. You analyze 890,000 transactions, 2,300 bank accounts, 470 corporate entities, financial data from 12 jurisdictions. You find patterns, unusual payment timing, unexplained cash surpluses, accounting anomalies, but nothing definitive, nothing that would hold up in court. Everything you find has a plausible legal explanation. You're 6 months into the investigation when you realize something horrible. You can prove they're laundering money, but you can't prove it without destroying 27 legitimate businesses that employ 4,600 people who have no idea they work for a criminal organization. The Navarro network didn't hide their money in fake companies. They hid it inside real jobs, real paychecks, real families. If you bring them down the way you've brought down every other case, you don't just arrest criminals, you erase livelihoods. You sit in your office for 3 days straight, staring at spreadsheets, running scenarios. Every path leads to the same place. You can't win clean. Agent Moss finds you at 2 a.m. still in the office. You found something, she says. It's not a question. You show her. There's one weakness in the Navarro network. A single offshore account in the Cayman Islands. $47 million. Connected to every major operation. If you can prove that account is criminal proceeds, you can freeze it. And if you freeze it, the entire network collapses within 90 days. Because that $47 million is the liquidity buffer, the emergency fund, the thing that keeps the whole system breathing. Without it, the network can't cover its operational costs while moving money through the legitimate businesses. But here's the problem. The only way to prove that account is criminal proceeds is to fabricate evidence. Not much, just one document. A backdated wire transfer that creates a paper trail linking the account to a known drug shipment. The wire transfer itself is real. The date is what you'd change, by 11 days. 11 days that create prosecutable cause. Agent Moss looks at you for a long time. "We're not having this conversation," she says, and walks out. You sit alone in the office. You've spent 2 years destroying criminals by finding the truth in numbers. Now you're being asked to destroy criminals by creating a lie in numbers. The same skill, different direction. You think about the 4,600 employees who will keep their jobs if you do nothing. You think about the $2 billion funding violence across 2 continents if you do nothing. You think about who you were 2 years ago and who you've become. At 4:47 a.m., you make a decision. You open the file. You change the date. You save it. You send it to Agent Moss. Subject line, the evidence you requested. No explanation. She never asks. The Navarro network falls exactly the way you predicted. Federal marshals freeze the $47 million account. Within 30 days, the network starts collapsing. They can't pay operatives. They can't move product. They can't cover costs. Within 60 days, 34 people are arrested. Within 90 days, the entire operation is dismantled. It's the biggest financial crime takedown in the last decade. Your name is in the press, not publicly, but in the circles that matter. Forensic accountant cracks impossible case. The Attorney General personally calls to thank you. You're offered a permanent position, $600,000 a year, full benefits, protection for life. You accept. But something feels wrong. Not guilt. You don't feel guilty about the falsified document. The Navarro network was moving money for organizations that had killed thousands of people. One fabricated date on one wire transfer seems like a reasonable price. What bothers you is something else. It's how easy it was. You've spent 2 years finding truth in numbers, and you just discovered that truth in numbers is a choice, not a discovery. Every number you've ever analyzed could be real or constructed, and you'd never know the difference, because you only see what the system shows you. For the first time, you understand something. You weren't hired to find the truth. You were hired to build a case, and those are not the same thing. 6 weeks after the Navarro takedown, Agent Moss calls you to a secure meeting. Different location, no other agents present. She tells you something that recontextualizes everything you've done for 2 years. Do you remember Case 2, the restaurant chain? The owner wasn't Cartel. He was paying protection money to the cartel. We knew that. We arrested him anyway because we needed to pressure his suppliers. Case 4, the real estate company? The owner's son is now a federal informant. That was the goal from the beginning. Case 5, the casino? That was personal. The owner testified against a federal agent 15 years ago. This was revenge with a legal wrapper. She looks at you. You're brilliant at finding financial crimes, but you were never hired to find crimes. You were hired to build justification for arrests we'd already decided to make. The math is real, but the targets were chosen before you ever saw the files. You sit there, processing. Every case you solved, every pattern you found, every empire you dismantled. You thought you were finding truth. You were providing cover. Agent Moss says, "You're the best we've ever had. Don't overthink it. The bad guys still go to jail. The math still works. Does it matter who chose the targets?" She leaves. You sit alone in the secure facility. For 2 years, you believed you were using your skills to bring down criminals. Now you realize you're just a tool. A very expensive, very sophisticated tool that finds exactly what it's aimed at and ignores everything else. The question you can't stop asking yourself: if you fabricated evidence once to take down people who deserved it, how do you know the evidence you found in every other case wasn't fabricated before it ever reached your desk? How do you know you're erasing criminals, and not just erasing whoever the system once erased? You look at your laptop. 4 terabytes of financial data for your next case. A pharmaceutical company suspected of money laundering for a Chinese syndicate. You could open the file, or you could walk out. You stare at the screen for 20 minutes. Then you open the file. Not because you believe in the mission anymore, because you've built your entire identity around being the person who sees the truth in the numbers. And you can't admit that maybe the numbers were never truth. They were just another story. And you were just the narrator the system hired to make it sound convincing. You start analyzing, because it's the only thing you know how to do. And because the alternative, admitting you might have destroyed lives for a cause that was never really about justice, is a truth you're not ready to face. So you keep counting, one transaction at a time, building cases for targets you'll never meet, in a system you no longer understand, for a government that knows exactly how to use you and will never tell you when you stop being the hunter and start being the weapon. That wraps up today's story. The relationship between forensic accounting and criminal prosecution is one of the most powerful and least understood tools in modern law enforcement. Al Capone wasn't brought down by violence, he was brought down by an accountant. Pablo Escobar's empire didn't fall because of military action, it fell because they froze his bank accounts. Financial warfare is the most effective weapon against organized crime, but like any weapon, it's only as moral as the person aiming it. I've got more stories coming that explore the people operating in the shadows of systems we think we understand. Hit subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.